This is how to make your brain like you. Now, it's kind of a strange title, especially when you compare it to the videos I make, the other videos I make. But something I've noticed just recently is if you hear a faint vibrating sound. Here's my cat. You want to hang out? Actually, yeah, he can be in the video. Something I've noticed is that my mind recently has sort of been, I've sort of been in a bit of a rut, right? A bit of a dip in my self-improvement. And, my attention has not been as good. I'm not as laser focused as I usually am. I haven't been quite as disciplined and as motivated I usually am. My screen time has been much higher, and it just doesn't really feel. I don't have the zest that I feel like I used to have from self improvement. I've sort of realized that I've been having more negative thoughts about myself. Like something bad will happen, and I'll beat myself up over it more than I usually do, and obviously I don't want that to happen. I don't want that to be my life. I want to live on self-improvement. I want to be constantly improving and making progress. But this is what naturally happens to a lot of people is you make a lot of progress in your self-improvement and then you dip down. And I'm still making progress. I'm still being disciplined, but not as much as I should be. And then I realized something, honestly, just like a few minutes ago, is that the negative thoughts that you are having about yourself, you don't have to have them. But for whatever reason, your brain has become self-destructive. Because think about it this way, right? For some people, like in some cases, negative thoughts are incredibly useful, right? If you do something bad, right? If you're like playing a sport and you make an error and it allows the other team to score a point or a goal or whatever sport you're playing, right? Naturally, you're going to have some negative thoughts towards that. You're going to be like, oh, shoot, I messed up. Like, that was terrible, right? But I'll learn from my mistakes. I'm going to improve on that, right? It's necessary to have those negative thoughts in order for you to recognize your error and to improve. But when that becomes toxic and unhealthy is when that negative thought turns into a long stream of negative thoughts that really have no lesson behind them, right? Because think about this. A negative thought where you then learn a lesson from it and improve upon isn't really a negative thought. It's actually a good thing that you're recognizing your error, right? That's actually a positive thought. But when you have a thought that you don't get to learn a lesson from, they're actually just making your mood and your life worse. You're just beating yourself up over and over, like this ridiculous cycle of just hating yourself, right? This happens, if you relate to this, and you're going through the same thing that I've been going through recently. Where like for me, I fell off self-improvement for a little bit, and then every time I try to get back on self-improvement, I am naturally not as disciplined, and so I beat myself up for it. Like, come on, man, you're supposed to be more disciplined than that. That's not how you're supposed to. Like, I feel you end up getting like this weird mode in your mind where your mind isn't really your friend anymore. It's like that annoying coach who's not really coaching you, he just hates you, right? There's two sides to our minds. Our mind can make positive thoughts or it can make these negative thoughts. So how can we control it? How can we make it so that our brains make positive thoughts automatically? Because for a while mine did, and now that I've had this realization, my brain is actually like making positive thoughts all over the place. The truth is, it's quite simple, really. Whenever you experience, okay, it's kind of a difficult concept to explain, even though I just said it was simple earlier, but I heard a story one time of, so Imagine that there's a dog, there's two dogs, or a wolf or whatever, right? There's two dogs. One dog is outside in the light, right? He's in he's like in a very nice enclosure, right? Like a nice backyard, and there's nature and light and all this stuff, right? Another dog is cooped up in a kennel, alone, in like a dark basement, right? Or like in a room by itself. And this is just how both of these dogs live, right? Like, there's no like, okay, this dog's going to be here for a while, but he's going to go over here. Like, this is permanent, right? This is how these animals are going to live. One is outside, the other is cooped up in a cage. Which one of these dogs is going to live? Which dog is going to survive? And of course, the natural answer would be the one that's out in the wild, or the one that's outside in the backyard. But no. The dog that lives is a dog that you feed. That's how your mind works. Your mind can either be outside in the wild, in nature, in beauty, producing positive, happy thoughts for you, or it can be cooped up in a cage in the dark, producing negative thoughts, hating your life, hating yourself. You have two options, right? You have two dogs, you have two sides, you have two parts that you have two modes of thinking that your brain can have, right? If we want to have positive thoughts, if we want to be able to build ourselves up instead of tearing ourselves down, right? We have to let the dog in the kennel die. We have to put it out of its misery. Because that dog ain't doing anything for us, right? It's making us more miserable. We're feeding that dog, keeping it alive, keeping it miserable. But we can set it free. We can let it out into the wild. All we have to do is focus our attention. So what this means is we can focus our attention onto positive thinking. So whenever we have negative thinking, basically just starve that thought. Don't give it any fuel. Don't give it any reason to persist. So when you notice yourself getting a negative thought, which eventually you will if you have any level of mindfulness, when you notice yourself getting a negative thought, all you have to do is just focus your attention on the positive aspect of it. And so if you're having a kind of a bad day, right? All you have to do to make that day not 10 times, not even 10 times, 100 times better is instead of thinking about all the bad things that happened that day, think about the good things that happened that day. And some of those good things might be really insignificant. Instead of like you say you had a really rough, like you drove to work today and it was rain, it was cold, right? And you make it to work and your boss is angry at you and you don't know why, and your coworkers don't really like you, and you get a pay cut that day or whatever, right? Not a good day. All you have to do to make that day better is think about the good things that happened. Even if it doesn't even seem like there are, believe me, there are. Because you could be dead. You could have been born without any limbs, right? Like, you have stuff to be grateful for. So bring your attention to things like, wow, today is actually great because my car was working, or I didn't run out of gas on the side of the road. That's a really good thing. Wow, my day was so great today, even though I got yelled at by my boss, but my life was so great today because my cat decided to sit on my desk when I was working. Or I got to listen to my favorite Christmas song on the radio on the way to work today. You can focus your mind. You can feed the dog out in nature that's giving you positive thoughts. Or you can feed the dog in the kennel. It doesn't do anything for you. It makes your life more miserable. The choice is yours. That's all I got for today. God bless you.
and stay wild.